But after the 1995 show, sales shot up sharply. In the Netherlands alone, his album sold 150,000 copies in months. In Germany, it reached the top 5 on the charts, rare for classical music. By the peak, it had sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. It outperformed pop stars like Celine Dion and Bon Jovi in Europe. Major record stores also began giving more space to classical music because of him. Music insiders called it the Rieu effect. Universal Music said his albums made more profit than those of any other classical artist. He wasn't just creating music. He was changing the way the business worked. All of this started with a risky choice he made in 1987. When he named his band after Johann Strauss, many thought he was arrogant. Over time, he proved them wrong. He didn't remove Strauss's work. He brought it back to life. In the 1980s, Strauss's waltzes were fading away. Few people played them anymore. But by 2010, performances of Strauss's music had grown 16 times. Rieu was mainly responsible for this revival. His orchestra, which began with only 12 players, grew to more than 60, even outnumbering Strauss's own group. In 1999, Rieu marked the 100th anniversary of Strauss's death with a tribute album. He spoke about his deep respect for Strauss. The Austrian government also honored him with a top national award for keeping the country's music history alive. André Rieu didn't just perform classical music. He made it a worldwide event. In 2008, he did something no other violinist had tried. He built a giant replica of Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace and took it on tour. This was a full-scale castle that traveled the world with him. It wasn't just a stage set. It had real fountains, ice rinks, chandeliers, and Vienna-style horse-drawn carriages. It was bigger than anything the Rolling Stones had built. The castle wasn't just for show. Rieu wanted to share Vienna's magic with people who never had the chance to visit. The logistics were huge. Each time he set up, 100 workers took 6 days to build the stage. Still, the effort paid off. Audiences filled stadiums in Europe and Australia. In Melbourne alone, 38,650 people saw him perform. That broke the record for the largest classical concert in Australia. Over 3 shows, nearly 90,000 fans showed up. Back in Europe, he was selling out arenas just as fast. At one point, his DVDs were at the top of the charts, with 8 of the top 10 spots filled. Only Pink and AC/DC were close behind. His success was no accident. His concerts were so popular that he made it onto the list of the world's highest-grossing tours. He shared the stage with stars like Madonna and The Police. That's impressive for someone known as the King of the Waltz. His album and DVD sales earned him more than 500 platinum awards. No other classical artist has matched this number. To honor his achievements, Universal Music gave him a custom chrome violin trophy. They said his success was unmatched in the music world. But not everything went smoothly. In 2016, disaster struck during a Christmas tour in the UK. Rieu's longtime trombonist, Ruud Merckx, had a heart attack in his sleep while the orchestra was in Leeds. Ruud had been with Rieu for more than 20 years. His wife, who also played in the band, was at his side. They had 2 children waiting at home. The tragedy hit the group hard. Rieu acted fast. He cancelled the show that night in Nottingham. He also postponed the rest of the UK tour. Performances in London, Birmingham, Manchester, and Glasgow were all cancelled. Rieu called his group family, and he meant it. Many members had been with him for over 25 years. Losing one of their own just before Christmas was heartbreaking. Merckx was flown back to the Netherlands, where he passed away 5 days later. When Rieu returned to the UK in March, a noticeable change was clear. The magic was still there, but the crowds were smaller. People remembered December's events, and so did he. André Rieu had spent decades captivating audiences with his music. Yet, in March 2024, his reunion in Mexico City nearly overwhelmed him. At 74, he kept touring around the world with the energy of someone much younger until his body suddenly gave out. After only 2 shows, André collapsed from a tough mix of jet lag, high altitude, and a severe flu. Mexico City's altitude, over 2,000 meters above sea level, pushed him to his limit. His band members also suffered, dealing with nosebleeds and exhaustion. For André, it was worse. He felt feverish, dizzy, and said he felt as old as 100. That night backstage, he called his wife and said something he had never said before. "I don't want a first concert day like this again." For the first time, the seemingly invincible star admitted he might need to slow down. The concerts were cancelled. 40,000 fans were disappointed. The man who never missed a show had to head home. This was no small scare. André had been fighting illness for years. In 2010, an inner ear infection made him lose his balance, ending his tour and taking months to heal. He even performed in 2019 while running a fever without telling anyone. Maybe he never should have again. Pierre had become more than a manager. He was now the one keeping his father safe. Over time, he eased André's burden, handling logistics, staff, and making sure everything ran smoothly. André used to want control over everything. Now he trusted Pierre completely. Their bond grew stronger after each health scare and close call. Behind the scenes, Pierre became his shield. Then came the fine. Dutch authorities fined André around £236,000 for children performing past legal hours. The fine was later lowered, but remained one of the biggest cultural penalties in Dutch history. André's team fought back. They said the kids only came out during the curtain call and never performed past 11 p.m. The children were under Zanfir's direction, not André's. After 2 years of court battles, the judges agreed with him. When the Enrime Cathedral caught fire, André quietly offered 700 tons of steel to help rebuild it. Small actions like this showed a side of him that rarely made headlines. His prized violin, the Stradivarius, nearly had to be sold during financial trouble. He set a high price just to keep it safe. When things got better, he took it off the market. That violin isn't just wood and strings, it's part of him. Now he plays a rare 1732 model and keeps it secure wherever he goes. Behind the fame, his wife Marguerite was always there. She wrote songs for the orchestra without taking credit. Her work lives in the music, not the spotlight. While André became the star, Marguerite stayed behind the scenes. She helped shape his sound, guide his vision, and push him to try new things. When classical music no longer excited him, she was the one who encouraged their boldest move, buying an old castle. The idea came out of nowhere but changed everything. They were on vacation when it happened. Inside, echoes of music and whispers of family decisions still linger, shaping the empire. Now, the next generation steps into that world. Daisy, André's granddaughter, is only 9, but already rehearses piano with the orchestra. This isn't a publicity stunt. It's how the Rieu family legacy operates, quietly, gradually, through love and talent. André knows the meaning of growing up in music because he lived it. Now Daisy lives it too, just like her father Pierre. If you want to sing, clap, or cry, this was the place to be. By the late 2000s and early 2010, Pierre told audiences not to bother with fancy gowns unless they wanted to twirl. He turned the symphony into a lively event, and fans loved him for it. Once, most classical concerts felt like boring lectures, stiff clothing, silent audiences, strict rules. Even clapping out of turn brought sharp glares. Rieu hated that. After some critics said his shows were too casual, he went viral. His version of Danny Boy in Dublin reached fans worldwide, drawing millions of views like a hit music video. His talent was not just online. He used the platforms smartly. Every stop on his tour had music, themes, and content made just for that location. He didn't just invite fans, he involved them. From polls to sneak peeks, parties to prizes, every detail was planned carefully. This was no longer just about music. It became about creating memories and stirring feelings. Fans could fully immerse themselves in his vision. Even theaters had to change. Quietness and stiff postures faded away. Now people could snack, sip drinks, and enjoy the film in a relaxed, festive atmosphere. Rieu understood a simple truth. People want real experiences, and he delivered just that. Critics were tough at first, but André Rieu's story is more complex than awards show stories. Behind the grand shows and sold-out venues is a man who fought emotional scars. His father was distant and never showed pride. He never praised André's violin or truly saw him. The pain ran deep. André even skipped his father's funeral because of it. As a young man, he saw his brother flee to another country to escape similar hurt. Therapy gave André new tools and a new view of life. Now he focuses on practical investments, not big dreams. Those struggles changed him. They made him more careful, even as he shines on stage. As he nears 75, André plans something big, maybe a final farewell. He wants to return to Maastricht, his hometown, for a concert series that feels like goodbye. His health already shows signs of trouble. He cancels shows and worries about how much longer he can perform. He works with a trainer and keeps a strict sleep schedule to stay sharp. He believes music heals. Fans and doctors have told him his concerts help them feel better. That might be why he keeps playing. For André Rieu, each note is a way to give back, stay young, and heal from his past pain. At 74, André Rieu's health has finally caught up with him, causing fans in Mexico City to feel heartbroken after he canceled several eagerly awaited concerts. This sudden change in his tour schedule has led his son to step into a leadership role over the empire Rieu built over many years. It's hard to imagine that the man who once performed 100 shows a year and owned 80 properties might need to retire, especially since he always said he'd perform until he reached 140. His last concert in Maastricht, where he began his music career, feels like a heartfelt farewell to both his fans and his legacy. Born in 1949 in the small Dutch town of Maastricht, Rieu grew up in a home filled with music but lacking warmth. His father, a strict conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra, emphasized discipline above everything. Love and support were seldom part of their family life. This strict upbringing pushed Rieu to be hardworking and dedicated to music, shaping him into the charismatic performer fans admire today. As this chapter ends, his influence continues to inspire many musicians and fans worldwide. André was the third of 6 children, raised in a household that felt more like a strict military camp than a warm home. There was little affection or comfort during his childhood. His parents, devout Roman Catholics, focused solely on rules and silence. Playing with friends was rare, and laughter was scarce. André once said, "My parents didn't love me very much," and he truly believed it. From a young age, his lively spirit clashed with his parents' distant attitude. His mother was obsessed with good grades and music practice. Teachers called him an artist, but she didn't like that label. Because of this, André felt invisible unless he did everything perfectly. He spent years in therapy searching for reasons why his childhood felt so empty. Maybe that emptiness pushed him to change how people see classical music. When André was 5, something surprising happened. He fell for his violin teacher. She was 18, blonde, and beautiful. He could hardly concentrate in lessons because of her. Still, she motivated him to practice daily. He didn't care about scales or technical skills. He just wanted to sound like her. He watched her hands, her movements, and how she made music come alive. In just weeks, while others struggled, André was mastering the emotional side of music. To him, feeling mattered more than perfection. As he got older, his relationship with his father became more strained. André didn't want to play strict classical pieces. He wanted to make music fun and lively. His father saw that as disrespect. When André said he wanted to play waltzes, his father replied, "I didn't raise you to play waltzes." That was a hard hurt. Things got worse when André introduced his future wife, Marjorie, to his family. Instead of a warm welcome, his mother ordered Marjorie to leave and told André to go back to his tidy room, as if he were still a child. That was the last straw. He grabbed Marjorie and left without looking back. After that, his parents stopped showing up at any of his shows. Even when he performed in big halls around the world after his father died in 1992, they never saw what André had achieved. Amid the rejection, André was secretly planning. While playing in his father's orchestra, he noticed something strange. Many musicians weren't interested in the music. They talked about the weather and complained about pay. The energy was dull. But during the encore, something changed. The orchestra played a Strauss waltz, and suddenly the audience brightened. People smiled and hummed along. Their excitement grew. That was when André realized what kind of music he wanted to make. Not to impress critics, but to move people. One time, he played a gentle serenade for a woman who hadn't opened her eyes in days. As the music filled the room, she opened her eyes. In that moment, André understood that music's strength wasn't about being perfect. It was about feeling. This idea inspired him to start his own orchestra. In 1978, at the age of 29, with his newborn son at home and little money, André began small. He formed the Maastricht Salon Orchestra with just a few musicians. They played wherever they could: weddings, town halls, border towns near Germany and Belgium. They performed old-fashioned waltzes and salon music most people had forgotten. It wasn't glamorous, and they didn't make much money, but André didn't mind. He loved what he was doing. One night, during a small concert, he played Franz Lehar's Gold and Silver Waltz. He put his heart into it and felt a change inside. The music seemed to talk back to him. That night, he decided this was his path. He didn't care if critics thought it was cheesy or if the wealthy laughed. He believed classical music could bring joy, and he would keep working until others saw it too. By 1987, André Rieu faced a big turning point. He was nearly 40 and had led the Maestro Salon Orchestra for almost 10 years. Still, something was missing. The excitement was gone. The limits had become clear. The old way just didn't work anymore. He wanted something bigger. He didn't just want to play music. He wanted to create magic. The kind of joy and energy people once felt when Johann Strauss played and moved with the music. He wanted to bring that energy back. But starting anew was not easy. It meant big risks. Hiring professional musicians required real money, and André wasn't rich. Every new player increased his financial pressure. Bookings were uncertain, and classical music wasn't known for taking risks. Still, he knew he had to try. On January 1st, 1988, his new orchestra, the Johann Strauss Orchestra, had its first concert. The concert was small, with only 12 musicians and a modest crowd. Yet, something about it felt different. Rieu didn't follow the usual rules. He didn't dress the orchestra in black or keep the stage formal and quiet. Instead, he used humor, folk tunes, dramatic lights, and theatrical touches. Critics called it tacky and gimmicky, but the audience responded with applause and smiles. They cheered and got involved. Rieu had sparked something, and he wasn't ready to let go. Then came a moment that changed everything. It was May 1995, during the Champions League final in Vienna. Ajax faced Bayern Munich. During halftime, something unexpected happened. Rieu and his orchestra walked onto the field. They performed Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2. Dutch TV commercials made the tune familiar, but no one saw what was coming. The stadium, packed with 50,000 football fans, started swaying, humming, and losing themselves in the music. No one had seen anything like it. The live broadcast reached 300 million viewers across Europe. It wasn't just a halftime show, it was a cultural shockwave. In the following weeks, Rieu sold 200,000 CDs. His album, Strauss and Company, released the year before, suddenly took off. It stayed at #1 on Dutch charts for 19 weeks and became the best-selling album of the decade there. People who never liked classical music started buying his albums and going to his shows. Many fell in love with waltzes. Music experts still talk about that football game as the moment when Rieu went beyond being just a violinist. He became part of a movement. Not everyone approved. The classical world pushed back hard. They called him a fake and said he was hurting tradition. Some even called his shows musical pornography. Critics didn't like the bright costumes, jokes, simple arrangements, or big sets. Things got worse in 2008, when Rieu built a fake Vienna palace. It had fountains, ice rinks, and horses just as a stage backdrop. The cost was $34 million. Purists were furious. Still, Rieu refused to give up. He believed music should be for everyone, not just experts. He wanted kids, parents, teachers, and cleaners to enjoy the same music once locked away in strict halls. The truth was clear. Millions loved him. They packed his concerts, danced in the aisles, and bought many albums. In 1994, Strauss and Company had made some noise. But after the 1995 show, sales shot up sharply. In the Netherlands alone, his album sold 150,000 copies in months. In Germany, it reached the top 5 on the charts. rare for classical music. By the peak, it had sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. It outperformed pop stars like Celine Dion and Bon Jovi in Europe. Major record stores also began giving more space to classical music because of him. Music insiders called it the Rieu effect. Universal Music said his albums made more profit than those of any other classical artist. He wasn't just creating music. He was changing the way the business worked. All of this started with a risky choice he made in 1987. When he named his band after Johann Strauss, many thought he was arrogant. Over time, he proved them wrong. He didn't remove Strauss's work. He brought it back to life. In the 1980s, Strauss's waltzes were fading away. Few people played them anymore. But by 2010, performances of Strauss's music had grown 16 times. Rieu was mainly responsible for this revival. His orchestra, which began with only 12 players, grew to more than 60, even outnumbering Strauss's own group. In 1999, Rieu marked the 100th anniversary of Strauss's death with a tribute album. He spoke about his deep respect for Strauss. The Austrian government also honored him with a top national award for keeping the country's music history alive. André Rieu didn't just perform classical music. He made it a worldwide event. In 2008, he did something no other violinist had tried. He built a giant